All right, folks, welcome to today's recap. This is Christian from Hertz Tribeca Trade Group, and we'll start with a couple earnings names. Today's price action, we're going to go over that. The SPY actually finished down a whopping 7 basis points, but there was some damage done. Q's actually finished in the positive. The Dow, which I very rarely look at, other than it's on my watch list, was flat for the day. But really, where there was a little bit of damage done was in small caps and the regional banks. So I'll go through that in a minute. Let me just talk a little bit about earnings names because, I don't mention this in the videos. This is something that I mention all the time in the trading room. Is that same day flow for options. Now I know there's guys on program on CNBC or whatever who I like, but I'm just like dumbfounded that they mention that there was same day earnings flow. They're buying calls in it. I'm going, like that kind of thing. The fact that these guys don't know that earnings, so same day earnings flow, we have just, I've learned over the years just to ignore it, mostly because guys who are going in for the same day as a name that reports earnings are most likely hedging out positions. It just is what it is, without really going into major thinking about it. But if you're short a name, you're going to buy calls to hedge yourself a little bit. The guys who that I've noticed that are really smart and positioning for earnings or some type of event usually do it a couple weeks beforehand, or at least like about a week beforehand. They don't do it same day. I don't have the exact percentage on that, but I would say probably around 10% of the same day earnings flow, maybe less, works very nicely for earnings. I would say 90% of it doesn't work. So, if again, I'm dumbfounded that somebody on TV would say, "Hey, there was snap calls that were purchased today," and granted, every trade there's what, a 50% chance that it's going to work or not. But the fact that if somebody is pretty seasoned in option trading and they're talking about same day option flow, I'm appalled by by that. So again, I could tell you what we do, and I could tell you what I've learned from over time is ignore it for the option flow that happens same day. It's very when something extremely aggressive goes up, maybe right before they report earnings. I think it's got about a 10% shot of working. That's not what guys do, and it's just not the way it works. And again, my opinion is it's mostly hedging, but you can come up with whatever reason. It just doesn't work. So I will tell you a name that we played for earnings today was Take Two. Take Two up to 115. What did I do? The earnings play, and again, I don't trade big size for earnings. It's just too risky to me. It's a binary event. Take Two was implying about a 7% move. Very small. I sold put spreads and collected 90 cents. So as long as that's Take Two is above 106 by Friday, collect a couple $100 and move on. That's basically how I deal with earnings plays. So nice win for the trading room today. I think maybe a couple people may have went long calls rather than do my trade, but I was pretty bullish on Take Two. Just the fact that we've already had ATVI and EA come out and kind of not have great price reaction after their earnings report kind of brought Take Two down a little bit, and it seemed like a good opportunity, something that was decently off the highs. So nice move in that one. So let me just go through. Again, IWM was the weakest area of the market, the small caps, of the major indices. What brought this down was, and I've showed this before. I apologize for having to bring this up again, but I think I just showed this yesterday. If I didn't, if I did it in yesterday's video, I apologize. And Bloomberg doesn't want to work. There we go. Still doesn't work. But what I want to show, let's see if I can bring it in without it causing too much issues. It's just very slow. Let's see if I can bring in the regional banks, and you can see what I'm talking about. Don't need this, this, and this. Let's see if that works. So you can see it's not a perfect fit. get this out of there. Yeah, it's not a perfect fit. In this sense, the IWM is the white line, the orange line is regional banks, but they have a pretty good fit. Sometimes these things, it looks like at one point the regional banks really outperformed, but other than that, they kind of move together. So why is that? Well, first of all, the regional banks are the biggest weight in IWM. They're about 10% of the index. So if you look, and why I'm talking about regional banks today is because they fell pretty hard, 2.5, about 3/4%. My only explanation, I did not see a story out on this, but you look at what bonds have been doing over the last week. They've been moving higher, right? So with a long bond, when the prices go higher, the yields go down. Um, that's not good for banks. And I think banks really need that catalyst because there sure is not, especially the investment banks, not making money on trading revenues. So they need this. I know I've talked a lot about the banks this year, but and where they have troubles. But yeah, I mean, they basically, I really believe that they need the banks need interest rates to go higher for them to do well. And again, this moving up means price is going higher and the yields are going lower. So that's not great for the banks right this second. So other than that, yeah, and it was basically a defensive tape. It was pretty defensive. Again, you look at the S&P with small caps down well over 1% today. The S&P was basically flat. Well, why was that? It's the same thing that we kind of talk about every day. There's areas within inside the S&P that are extremely strong. I mean, look at the utilities today up 1.2%. Actually, consumer staples actually showed a little signs of life. They were also up 1.1%. So all these names are in the S&P 500. REITs were also strong. They were up 70 basis points. So pretty strong there. And there was a few other pockets of areas like in the industrials. The XLI ETF was actually positive on the day. So was healthcare. So besides just looking back to the negative side, the regional banks were down almost 3%. Also, the retail ETF was down about 2.4%. Keep in mind, Priceline, TripAdvisor, names like that are in the XRT ETF. So that was why that group of retail stocks were down so hard. You could see if Bloomberg wants to work, but you could see the names that were brought down in this ETF. And then steel names were also down a bit. We did see some put buying go up in U.S. Steel as well as MT, and then the solar names were also down a bit, down 1.2%. Biotech also down. So healthcare stocks up a little bit, and biotech, small cap biotech down. Again, it just took a while to bring up the screen. I don't know why my Bloomberg is so slow, but you could see TripAdvisor, LTRPA, Priceline down 13%, GNC down 7%. Yeah, a lot of names. Wayfair was down a lot on another Amazon rumor. So those were the big movers in terms of option activity and big movers in sectors. I would say Comcast was one of the best trades of the day. This was kind of funny. We put this together yesterday. You can see Comcast is kind of tough because it's in a big downtrend. It's below the 200-day moving average, but really got off to a nice start today. We had talked about this yesterday when there was the rumors about Fox and Disney joining, and I started to think about what names could possibly do pretty good for pin action, right? Names that could do well. And I thought Viacom, and I'm like, well, what other names have we seen option activity in? And I'm like, Comcast. Comcast was a name that we've seen repeat call buying the last couple weeks, and we saw more calls this morning. So really nice aggressive order. 10,000 of the Comcast December 37.5 calls. HCNP, I actually bought some of these today as well. They keep buying a little bit of calls, and they're selling a lot of puts in HCNP, and they've been doing this pre and post earnings, especially post earnings. They've been selling puts. More PayPal calls today. Small Chinese internet name Beta saw some call activity. AMD, they've been tagging the hell out of weekly calls. So if you're into that kind of thing and you like to chase the weekly call buyers, they just kept coming in, and they started at like 6 cents today, buying some weekly calls, and they, like I said, they just kept going. There was also this January 12, 13 call spread, so just a dollar wide call spread which was bought for about 40 cents. So not bad risk to return. I think AMD is actually now what above should be decently above there. It actually fell off, so I'm glad I didn't chase this. For me, it has to be over the 200-day moving average. I guess for day trading it's fine, but maybe something comes out later in the week for AMD. But I'll give you the example when we look at total volume. I mean, it was 25,000 of uh, the November 12 calls, 23,000. 21,000 of the 12 and a halfs, and 17,000 of those. So a lot of weekly stuff going up in that name. Corning, I thought was a pretty good signal. I did not take it. A lot of JD.com trading again. Again, as I talked about, I think in last night's video, nice to see they're going out to May and not the weekly crap. CRM, sorry. CRM, they actually came in right when the stock came all the way back to basically flat for the day after Salesforce came out with good numbers. So it looks like they did buy a little bit of that weakness, or when the name was basically about flat. Zio, some calls on that one. A couple more names for energy. Also, Southwest Airlines, they bought some calls in that one. Just one note, I know yesterday everybody was talking about, the big move in energy, and there's call buyers all over the place. One of the things that I said in the trading room today was, hey, sometimes you can get a chance. If you didn't get in when I did last week, sometimes you can get in on a little bit of, when the dust kind of settles a little bit. We do have the Department of Energy numbers that come out tomorrow. I think we have the API numbers come out already. This is oil, but sometimes you can get in cheaper than all the momentum players that were in yesterday. Not much was really. There was some more. There was a little bit more call buying, but it had nothing. It was nothing compared to what it was yesterday. So keep in mind that some of the keep an eye on these energy names because you may be able to get into them a lot cheaper than what some of the momentum players yesterday paid for the calls. So there you go. I one name that did see repeat call buying was RRC. We continue to see that one. So above the 50-day moving average. At this point, considering how far it is from the 200-day, as long as you're using something, is my opinion. As long as you're using something that you have a bail point on, price is now above the shorter-term moving averages. The yellow line on my chart is the 5, the blue is the 20, and the purple is the 50. So it's above. The price is above all these short-term averages. So use that as a stop. I day traded, one final note, I just day traded a little bit of Tesla. I haven't really been doing too much day trading lately, but it looked like a pretty good signal break of the value where we got long. Looks like it's still trading up here a little bit. I think Tesla for the week can maybe get at least to the point of control, which is 310. Keep an eye on that name tomorrow. So that's it for tonight's video. Have a great night, and I'll see you tomorrow in the trading room. Thanks for watching.